the Prime Minister has assured families of the victims of the Grenfell fire tragedy that the first report, published officially today, will allow the world to finally hear the truth.
Boris Johnson said the report would be harrowing and that no apology would ever make good the loss suffered and trauma experienced. Joining us now is Moyra Samuels, who's part of the Justice4Grenfell campaign group. Moyra, thanks for joining us. First of all, have you seen the details of the report? I know some of it has been leaked and it's officially out today, but have you seen anything?
I've only seen, obviously, because it's been published, only published today.
What's
I've seen
there.
the executive summary.
Yeah. What's your initial thoughts? You know, when yesterday we were talking about the criticism of the fire service, and we have to say not necessarily the fire service men, but maybe some decisions made at the very top of the fire brigade. What's your feelings on that, first of all?
I think it's good that the bits that I've seen, that it actually acknowledges the role of the firefighters on the ground. But I think it actually is quite concerning that there's been such an enormous amount of deficits within the ALIF, you know, the London Fire Brigade, and those are acknowledged in the report. You know, poor communication systems, you know, general resourcing.
But you've talked in the past, I know, about a general failure of the system, I suppose, that got us to this place in the first place, you know, because London has been through this before with the Tower fire in 2009, was it? You know,
Lakanal?
Yeah, Lakanal, exactly.
Yes.
And I've heard you speak in the past that lessons haven't really been learnt from that either, have they?
No, they haven't. You know, and that's actually what is extremely worrying about this report, in a sense that it's important that actually lessons are learned, because we know that if the inquiry, the Lakanal inquiry, was taken seriously, Grenfell probably wouldn't have happened, because in that inquiry they identified two key things which have played a role and which has come up in the report: cladding and stay put.
The stay put criticism, I think I found really hard to read, because there were families in that tower that night ringing 999 who could have got out.
Yeah.
The fire broke out at 12:54, and the report says the policy to tell families to stay put because the assumption would be that the fire would be contained, which we now know was completely wrong. That policy should have been abandoned around 1:30. It wasn't abandoned until around 2:50. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge amount of time that those families could have used to escape. And that must be very hard for the families of the survivors and the families of the victims to read about.
I think that is definitely the case. I think, you know, there is, for people who were there on the night, I think, like myself, it was obvious for us on the outside that actually they should have been told to evacuate, have a mass evacuation. And I think the London Fire Brigade are going to have to explain that decision, why there was such a huge delay. You know, apparently there's quite a lot of confusion. Confusion.
There was communication breakdown, wasn't there, on the ground and going back to 999 call
But also, what is the alternative? You know, stay put, as I say, was raised in Lakanal.
Well, that's the thing that worries me the most. You go, we've been here before. Lakanal said exactly the same things. Compartmentalising the residents was the wrong thing to do then. Communication with 999 was bad then. But nothing has been done about it. Lessons have not been learned.
I think what we need is proper research. I think there are a number of high-risk buildings across the country with cladding at the moment, which is an enormous concern, and at least, you know, Morbic has recognised that with regard to removal of cladding. So we need some proper research with fire experts, with fire chiefs and the government, and we need the political will to actually provide the research that says, in the case where stay put doesn't work, what should happen?
Have you managed to speak to any of the residents in Grenfell over the last couple of days whilst this leaks of this report is coming out? Have you spoken to any of them? And any thoughts from them?
No, I haven't.
Right.
I think for the community, it's a difficult time, because especially with the leak, it's kind of taken us back to that those days after the fire where we were inundated with the media and pressurised. And I think people just wanted some quiet to digest this, you know, what's...
And of course, there are NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and apparently around a third of the core participants in the inquiry didn't get to see the first report before it was leaked online. I mean, it's going to be, it's a very hard report to read. It's not the end of it, of course, either, because the whole inquiry into and the report on the cladding and the construction comes later. This is the first part. Fire Brigade, London Fire Brigade have come in for a lot of criticism. People are, you know, worried about the effect on firefighters as well, who, you know, played such an important part that night.
I
but
think
for the residents,
it is worrying that the
time.
inquiry has had that sort of focus, you know, because I think what there needs to be an acknowledgement is how has our fire service got to this particular place? And, you know, our now Prime Minister, twice elected as Mayor, was one of the key people who actually made swinging cuts within the fire service. You know, so there has to be some responsibility and accountability for actually those kind of cuts that were made and the impact that that had on the ability of the fire service to perform their duties.
Yes, it raises as many questions, doesn't it, as it answers, and it's officially published today, so we will get official statements from all of those who are involved. Moyra, I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much indeed.